Hey family, I don't even know how to start this without my hands shaking on the keyboard. I've been carrying this around for months now, and every time I close my eyes it all comes rushing back. That mix of warmth and guilt that won't let me sleep. I'm just your average guy in my late 20s, stuck in a dead-end office job where the days blur together and I come home every night feeling like I'm drowning in quiet loneliness. The pressure to finally get my life together weighs on me constantly. Then my old college buddy hit me up one random afternoon, asked if his younger sister could crash at my place for a few months while she looked for work in the city. I said yes without thinking twice. Figured it was no big deal, just helping out a friend. God, I had no idea she was about to turn my whole world upside down. She moved in on a quiet Saturday morning, just a single duffel bag slung over her shoulder and this shy little smile that barely reached her eyes. I told myself right away she was completely off limits. My friend's little sister, barely 22, way too young and innocent for someone like me with all my baggage. But from that first day our routines started overlapping in the smallest, most dangerous ways. Mornings in the tiny kitchen where we'd both reach for the coffee maker at the same time. Our arms brushing so close I could feel the heat from her skin through the thin fabric of her sleek shirt. The narrow hallway where we'd pass each other after work, her hair still damp from the shower. That soft lavender and vanilla scent trailing behind her like a secret I wasn't supposed to notice. Sometimes she'd leave the bathroom door cracked open just a little while steam rolled out, carrying whispers of her body wash into the living room, making the whole apartment feel suddenly smaller. Warmer, heavier. The first time I really noticed her, was one random Tuesday evening. I'd just gotten home from another soul-crushing day, kicking off my shoes by the door, when she came out of the shower wrapped only in a towel, hair dripping wet and clinging to her shoulders. She was humming this old indie song I used to love back in college. The kind that hits you right in the chest. That soft lavender and vanilla scent hit me like a wave crashing over everything. I looked away instantly, pretending to scroll on my phone, but in my head the thought slipped out uninvited. God, she's actually stunning. The way the light caught the droplets on her skin, the gentle curve of her neck as she tilted her head. I felt this immediate rush of guilt twisting in my stomach. She's family adjacent, living under my roof, trusting me to keep things safe and normal. What kind of creep even lets a thought like that cross his mind? I swallowed hard, first a casual hey, and disappeared into my room before she could see the heat rising in my face. But that moment wouldn't leave me alone. Days turned into weeks, and I started catching myself timing my evenings around when she'd be in the kitchen cooking dinner. The way her oversized t-shirt would slip off one shoulder while she stirred pasta, revealing just a hint of smooth skin that made my breath catch. The soft texture of her bare feet padding across the wooden floor, quiet and intimate like she owned the space without even trying. Everything about her became this quiet trigger I couldn't ignore. At night, I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the sound of her quiet laugh when we watched shows together on the couch, hating myself for how much I wanted to reach over, just once, and let my fingers brush hers. She trusts me, I'd repeat like a desperate mantra in the dark. I can't ruin that. She's new to the city, vulnerable, depending on me for a safe place to land. Yet every morning when our eyes met over coffee, that pull grew a little stronger, like gravity I couldn't fight, even as shame burned hotter in my chest. And then, one evening she asked me something so simple it shouldn't have mattered, but it did. One evening she asked if I could help zip up the back of her dress for a job interview the next morning. The words hung there between us like rain about to fall. I nodded without thinking, throat suddenly tight, and followed her into the dim hallway light. She stood with her back to me, that simple black dress hugging her frame, the zipper waiting halfway down. My fingers brushed the warm skin between her shoulder blades. Just for a second, maybe two. Heat bloomed where we touched, spreading through my palm like a secret I couldn't unread. She shivered once so lightly I almost convinced myself I imagined it. "You're the best roommate ever," she whispered, turning with that gentle smile that made the air feel thinner. I smiled back, heart hammering against my ribs, while inside I was screaming, "If only you knew what I'm imagining right now, how badly I want to trace that same path again, slower, without the excuse of a zipper, Days blurred after that, each one pulling me deeper into something I couldn't name. I'd catch myself staring at the curve of her neck when she leaned over her laptop in the evenings. Urbid's in, completely lost in whatever world played for her alone. The way her breathing changed when we sat close on the couch. Softer, almost hesitant, like she felt the same invisible thread tightening between us. Every time the hunger flared up, sharp and uninvited, I'd force myself to remember she was vulnerable here, new to the city, counting on me to keep the space safe. I'd tell myself, pacing my room after she'd gone to bed. She deserves better than some guy quietly losing his mind over her in secret, turning every shared silence into fuel for thoughts I had no right to. Yet the thoughts only grew louder, like a storm gathering force behind closed windows. Nights became the worst. I'd lie there listening to the faint sounds of her moving around in her room, the soft creak of the floorboard, the rustle of pages if she was reading late. My mind replayed the brush of her fingers when we passed the remote, the way her laugh would fade into a sigh when the show ended and the room went quiet. I hated how much I craved just one more almost moment. Her hand resting near mine on the armrest, close enough that the warmth crossed the tiny gap without ever quite touching. She trusts me completely, I repeated in the dark, fists clenched under the blanket. I'm the only steady thing she has right now. Crossing even the smallest line would shatter that. The shame sat heavy in my chest, but it didn't stop the pull. If anything, it made the ache sharper, sweeter, impossible to ignore. And then last night, she came out after her shower again, hair damp and smelling like that lavender that now lived in my dreams. She paused in the living room doorway, oversized shirt slipping just enough to show the line of her collarbone, and asked if I wanted to watch something with her. Our eyes met longer than they should have. The air thickened, heavy with everything we weren't saying. I almost reached for her then, almost let my hand drift toward the space between us. My pulse thundered in my ears, a war raging behind my calm face. Stop this before it ruins her, before it ruins everything. But God, the way she looked at me in that moment, like I was still safe, it made me wonder how much longer I could pretend I wasn't already falling. Then came the night that cracked everything open. We'd both dragged ourselves home, wrecked, her eyes red from another rejection letter, shoulders tight from watching the promotion slip to someone else. The apartment felt smaller than usual, walls pressing in with all the disappointments we didn't want to name. She pulled a cheap bottle of red from the cabinet, held it up with a tired half-smile. Commiserate? To glasses became the whole bottle before we noticed. Lights dimmed low. That soft indie track she loved drifting from her phone like a secret between us. The wine warmed my chest, loosened the careful distance it'd been guarding. She sat curled on the couch, knees tucked close, bare legs brushing the cushion near mine. Her voice came quieter, almost hesitant. I feel so safe with you, but sometimes I wish you'd see me differently. The words landed like a spark on dry leaves. My breath caught. The room suddenly too warm, her scent wrapping around me stronger than the wine. I leaned in without deciding to, drawn by that invisible gravity it fought for weeks. Our lips met soft at first, testing, trembling with everything held back. Then hunger took over, her fingers curling into my shirt like she'd been starving for this too. The kiss deepened, breathless and urgent, her small sounds vibrating against me until my mind emptied of every warning it whispered to myself. We stumbled toward my room in a haze of shared heat, hands exploring the lines we'd only imagined. Fabric slipped away in trembling rushes, skin meeting skin in waves of warmth that made the air feel alive. She gasped my name against my neck, a sound that sent electricity racing through every nerve. That night we crossed every boundary I'd sworn to keep, bodies moving together in a rhythm that felt both brand new and achingly familiar. The way she held on to me, like I was the only solid thing left in her world, it undid me completely. Afterward, the silence washed empty. We laid angled, her head on my chest, lavender still clinging to damp strands of hair against my skin. Fingers traced lazy circles on her back, feeling the steady rise and fall of her breathing. For the first time in months, the loneliness that usually waited in the dark stayed away. Her quiet laugh broke the stillness when she whispered how long she'd wanted this. How she'd noticed me noticing her. The confession sent fresh heat blooming low in my stomach, pulling me back toward her even as exhaustion tugged at my limbs. From then on we slipped into a hidden rhythm that felt like stolen paradise. Late nights she'd creep into my room after the lights went out, her bare feet silent on the floor, sliding under the covers with a shy smile that quickly turned hungry. Mornings brought quick kisses in the kitchen while coffee brewed, her body pressing close for just a moment too long, the warmth of her through thin fabric making my hands itch to pull her nearer. Lazy Sundays we spent wrapped in sheets, her scent marking my pillows, the world outside forgotten while we lost hours in soft touches and whispered secrets. The pleasure wrapped around me like a drug I couldn't quit. Every shared glance across the room carried new weight, every accidental brush of hands sparking memories of skin on skin. Work stress that used to crush me melted away the second I stepped through the door, knowing she was waiting, her presence filling the empty spaces I'd grown used to. She opened up more too, leaning on me for comfort after tough interviews, her trust deepening in ways that both thrilled and terrified me. In those quiet after moments, when her breathing evened out beside me, I'd stare at the ceiling feeling the ache of how perfect it felt, and how dangerous. Yet even in the sweetness, tiny cracks began showing. She started looking at me with softer eyes in daylight, reaching for my hand when we watched shows like it was the most natural thing. The power between us shifted subtly, her depending on me not just for a roof but for confidence, for reassurance, for the steady presence it'd become. I felt it growing, this imbalance I couldn't ignore, the quiet fear that I was becoming something she needed too much. In the stillness after we'd come down from the high, guilt would creep back in, whispering that I was the one who should know better, the one holding the fragile line. Last night she fell asleep curled against me again, her breath warm on my shoulder, one leg draped over mine like she belonged there. I lay awake listening to the rain starting outside, heart heavy with the weight of what we'd built in secret. How much longer could this hidden world last before the real one came knocking, before the trust I was quietly breaking finally gave way? The thought sent a fresh shiver through me, mixing dread with that same relentless pull, but kept drawing me back to her warmth. But the cracks widened faster than I could patch them. She began leaving little notes on the fridge, hearts doodled in the corners of shopping lists, her handwriting curling like an invitation I didn't deserve. During dinner she dressed her chin on her hand and watched me across the table, eyes soft with something deeper than the hunger we'd started with. I felt the shift like a slow tide pulling sand from under my feet. Her laughter came easier now, but it carried weight, expectation I wasn't ready to hold. One evening my phone buzzed on the counter while she was humming in the shower. My buddy's name flashed on the screen. "Hey man, how's my sister holding up? Thinking of swinging by next weekend to check on her. You two getting along okay?" His voice was casual, brotherly, full of trust that hit me like cold rain down my spine. I mumbled something about her doing great, job hunt going steady, but my throat tightened around the lie. When I hung up, the apartment felt smaller, the walls pressing in with all the secrets we'd hidden between them. She stepped out moments later, hair damp and smelling of that same lavender that now haunted my dreams. She saw my face and tilted her head, that gentle smile faltering. "Everything all right?" Her hand reached for mine across the counter, fingers brushing mine with a warmth that used to spark fire but now carried warning. I pulled back just a fraction, pretending to grab a glass, but the distance felt louder than any words. Later that night she curled into me on the couch, her head finding its familiar spot on my shoulder. The TV flickered with some forgettable show, but neither of us was watching. Her voice came quiet, almost shy. "I've been thinking. This feels like more than just sharing the place. Like maybe I'm starting to fall for you. For real." The words landed soft but heavy, cracking open the last fragile shell around my heart. Panic flooded in, icy and sharp, drowning the warmth of her body against mine. I couldn't breathe right. All the nights I'd told myself this was harmless, that the pull between us was mutual and safe. They unraveled in seconds. She was my friend's sister, young, trusting, building her life on the stability I'd pretended to offer. What was I doing, letting her lean so close when I knew the ground was shifting? The guilt I'd buried rose up choking, reminding me how I'd crossed the line first, how every stolen moment had quietly changed the balance until she looked at me like I was her future and I looked at her like a secret I couldn't keep. The next morning I sat her down at the kitchen table, sunlight cutting sharp across the wood between us. My hands trembled around the coffee mug as I forced the words out. "We have to stop. Before this breaks something we can't fix." Her eyes widened, then filled slowly, the shine of tears making her look even younger, more fragile. She didn't yell or argue, just nodded once, small and broken, whispering, "I thought you felt it too." The ache in her voice carved deeper than any touch ever had. She moved out 2 weeks later, suitcases lighter than when she'd arrived but carrying away pieces of me I hadn't known were there. The apartment echoed now in a different way, empty not just of company but of that quiet electricity that had made the air feel alive. Sometimes late at night I'd catch the faint trace of lavender on a pillowcase I hadn't washed yet, and my chest would tighten with the same old hunger mixed with regret. I still don't know if crossing that line was the mistake or if stopping was. Desire had blinded me to how easily trust could fray, how one person's warmth could become another's quiet undoing. The what-ifs linger like fog that never quite lifts. What if I'd been stronger from the start or braver when it mattered most? What do you think, family? Should I have never started? Or was the connection worth the pain? Tell me honestly in the comments. If you want the raw, unfiltered details of those nights we shared, drop a like and I'll think about sharing more in the next one. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Take care, family. See you soon.